Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, Sean Neighbors. Actually, apparently I'm Andrew Ellis today.
How did that happen?
I have no idea. Like, we start the show. Okay, so those are just like audio listening. For some reason, we always have our order of like me, Curtis, Andrew, and then as soon as the intro ends, suddenly I'm Andrew, Andrew's me, and like it was just all over the place. So, yeah, that was not done on purpose. But yeah, that threw me off. I'm like, wait, what happened here? Good start to a Monday, though, guys. How we feeling today on Inside Arkansas Live?
I needed that. That was a good way to start the show there, man. That's I have no idea what just happened, but I'm here for it. Let's get weird on a Monday.
Yeah, that was great. And well, I mean, like, full disclosure, like, we were in the right spots before you hit the intro. I don't know what happened
100%
there.
were.
But that was awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Like, anytime, I feel like this happens a lot where anytime I'm like dreading the show or dreading the week where just things aren't going well for the Hogs, the vibes are bad, and I'm like, God, how are we going to do this? Somehow I get here and I'm in a good mood. And I really was not expecting to be in a good mood. Like, when I woke up this morning, was in a foul mood. But I don't know. I'm renewed. Maybe it's just that McDonald's iced coffee working into my bloodstream, but I'm feeling pretty good. I'm buzzing given the circumstances, I should say. Given the circumstances of where Arkansas athletics are at.
Phew. One thing I'm dreading for sure is this afternoon I'm driving out to XNA again to pick up my lovely wife. That's exciting to be able to get her from work. She's in the chat, so I had to make sure that I say that. But boys, I've been driving to XNA like 6 times a week. And I'm going to do it again today. But dadgummit, the next time that I do it, we're getting on an airplane together and going on a road trip, which is a little bit less consequential than it was, when we booked the trip. But it's equally exciting because at least we get to do it together. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, Curtis, sometimes when Michelle will be going out of town, I'll kind of hint and I'm like, man, I'm a little bit jealous, kind of, it's just nice to have the house to yourself sometimes. But I say today, my queen has left the castle. She went to XNA this morning. She went on a work trip to Atlanta. Of course, I'm going on a work trip on Wednesday. So, I didn't expect to, but I was a little somber this morning.
I wish I knew what that was like, what either of you were talking about. So,
Rowdy doesn't ever dip out on you? No,
nothing like that. Never get to experience that. But yeah, no, it is. In fact, I was going to say, Curtis, maybe your lovely wife Michelle needs to drive us to the airport for a change. Like maybe that needs to happen.
Hey, she did offer that, and I shut it down. I was like, there's no way that I'm doing a 4 a.m. Airport trip with you driving and the 3 of us in a there's no way I'm doing it. And now that now that you put it out there, I'm gonna look like a real jerk. But she offered, so maybe.
Yep. The thought was there. But yeah, it's gonna be fun though. Like, yeah, we are flying out early on Saturday or Wednesday morning, and then we're gonna be there in Lexington. All of our Inside Arkansas Live still gonna be live there at the KS Bar. Going to have Pot at the Palace still going, even Bombastic still going to be going. We're going to have some really good content out there. It's going to be a lot of fun hanging out there in Big Blue Nation. So be sure to tap in with us throughout that whole process. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of things that we'll be able to talk about. But we are going to talk a lot about it, of course, today too, because not only are we going to get into what happened over the weekend with best and worst of the weekend, we're going to get to an SEC update, look back on that. Talk some various storylines, and of course your chats and your phone calls. If you want to enter the conversation, 478-344-6623 is that number to call in. But, I know that, of course, we all witnessed what happened in Bud Walton Arena on Saturday. Felt like he had a step forward, 2 steps back. It really crushed any sort of momentum that this Razorback basketball team had. And what little postseason hope that they had going into that game, if they can maybe get turned around, is completely out the door. And I think everyone's kind of accepted that now. So the question becomes, and this is something I want to discuss also, looking back, is like, what do you play for? If you're Arkansas, if you're these players, if you know that the season that you're hoping for is not there, and that you've been injuries to Boogie Flan being out for the year, still a lot of very tough teams and tough games you're going to have ahead of you. If the postseason's out of play, what do you play for? Who do you play for? What's the point of the rest of the year? And what needs to be the goal for this team as individuals as well as a collective for the rest of the season?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. And that's what Calipari and that staff has to be selling right now, because it's a a mental toughness thing, a gut check thing, and we could sit here and do the bit about they need to play with pride for the name on the front of their jersey and everything. Oh, we've been talking about that the entire year. Somebody on our post game chat the other night said something along the lines of, I'm real deflated because this kind of puts an end to any tournament hope or whatever. But weirdly, I also feel maybe a little bit better about the direction this team is headed. I think me and Andrew both agreed with that. So really the only thing you can sell is take it game by game, try to continue to improve, make sure you're playing your best basketball at the end of the season. You still have a puncher's chance in the SEC tournament. Do I think they're going to go win that thing? No, absolutely not. But it's like, you got a lot of opportunities to play some really, really good teams, to, just pick some off and build a little confidence and just hope you're playing your best at the end of the season. That's really all I got for you.
I would also say that obviously they're 1-6. We see where this thing is headed. They're not like mathematically eliminated from at-large contention. Obviously, that could change real quick. That could change in like 10 days. We see the writing on the wall. We see where this is headed. But I think until you get to that point where you have like 11, 12 SEC losses, then you're at the point where it's like, okay, we have to win the SEC tournament. Arkansas's not quite there. And so I think for at least a couple weeks, you can kind of sell that to the team if you're John Calipari of like, hey, we just got to get hot. We just got to go on a run. Of course, I'm not trying to make the case that they're really about to go on a 9-game win streak and be an at-large team. But I think there's still like enough season in front of you to where it shouldn't be a full-on letting go of the rope moment. But guys, I was watching, I've referenced it a couple times, Hard Knocks. They did like an in-season AFC North thing. And I remember the Browns, the Cleveland Browns, who had, I don't know what they finished this year, well under 500, did not make the playoffs, and they were out of contention for a while. And Myles Garrett, the former A&M defensive end, he was giving him a speech about, this time of year, ain't got much to play for. It's a pride thing. And he's like, honestly, man, this team is what it is. But he's like, you guys have families to feed. You've got jobs to get. Like, it's going to be, when you have a bad season, it's very easy for people to write you off as an individual. I know that sounds stupid, but it's like, a lot of these guys have aspirations. A lot of these guys think they're going to play at the next level, whether it's, overseas, whether it's G League, whether it's actually in the NBA. And also it's like, dude, you only get one collegiate basketball career. You only get a select few seasons or whatever. So it's like, if nothing else, you should be selfishly playing for your own pride and to make your own career play out a certain way. And so I think unless you just have a team that really hates each other and hates themselves, it's like, you really shouldn't get like a full on quitting effort out of them. And I will say, I haven't seen that out of this Arkansas team. I've seen a lot of struggles. I've seen a lot of missed shots. I've seen a lot of miscues, but I have not seen them quit on themselves and just roll over and quit. So I actually don't think we're going to see that kind of situation. Maybe we will, but we just haven't seen it yet of like Arkansas starts getting 28-point losses and they're getting completely run out of the gym every night. Really, the only team that's really beat them bad was Tennessee, and that's a very good team on the road. I think Arkansas is going to be competitive enough to be in striking distance. And dude, the SEC is just chaotic in basketball this year. Pretty much every game on the slate, you can look at it and be like, okay, this team's supposed to win. This team's supposed to do that. But pretty much every week it's chaos. And so I think if you're Arkansas, your goal has to be just getting in that mix of chaos. Right now, Arkansas is not even in the real mix of all the teams jammed in the middle of the pack there. I think you've got to claw and get your way to that point and then work from there.
Well, you mentioned the SEC tournament, and yeah, I don't think anyone's going to say, "Hey, Arkansas, they're a team that for sure could win the SEC tournament and get to the tournament." But it is the only path, really, at this point that's even close to being realistic. And some of you may say it's not realistic, which, yeah, I'm not saying I'm predicting it, but it's because we've seen it before. We've seen teams go into the SEC tournament that had no business really even being in the NCAA tournament, didn't have a bid, but they got it done and then they won. It doesn't happen often, but it's there. So that's kind of what your pathway, I guess, if you're still trying to make the NCAA tournament, would be your best bet. But even then, it's just not going to be the case of it. And also, too, the element of not quitting, it's 100% there as far as this team's effort and they're giving into it. And I think a lot of it comes into, you see a cliche, it's about their competitive nature. But a lot of these guys, are going to go to the NBA or at least striving to go into the NBA. And the last thing that they want to have and the last thing that they're built to do is, hey, when things get bad or whatever, you just mailed it in and you didn't care. because that will be something, whether you want to agree or not, but that will be something NBA franchises look at and be like, okay, well, hey, if we draft you and, we draft you really high and our team's not very good, we're having a rebuilding year, whatever, are you going to be the type of player that just bounces out, or shuts down mentally and doesn't care? So I think that there's always going to be that effort to that. And that's why I still believe, is this team going to win 6-7 games in the SEC? No. But I still think there is at least 1 or 2 games left on this SEC schedule that Arkansas is going to win that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they are underdogs in. Maybe it doesn't make any sense as to why. But as long as the effort's there, because there is some talent, there is some things that could make this interesting. I still think there's going to be a couple more wins that Arkansas gets on the schedule that they realistically shouldn't, given the circumstances.
That's a pretty good point. And I think Arkansas is not a good basketball team, but they do care. And so, and that was in question for a while there. But to Andrew's point earlier, I think the last couple games, even in the loss against Oklahoma, man, they gave it their all. They just can't make shots or execute in crunch time, things that not good basketball teams do. But I think I'm with you on maybe winning some games that you shouldn't. Another way to maybe keep these guys motivated and, don't let go of the rope or whatever, outside of like self pride and everything like that, is really taking that game by game approach. Like it's pretty easy to sell the motivation for Saturday, right? Going back to Kentucky, and it's not just Cal, it's DJ, it's Thero, it's Big Z. So everybody on that team should probably go out there and give their best effort, right? And then you go to Texas, and hey, I don't know if people are going to buy into it or not, but we hate Texas around here, so sell that. Oh, Alabama, like those guys are where we want to be. They're coming into our house. Let's give them our best shot. Oh, LSU's coming back. They kicked our ass in their building. It's a get back game. Like every game, Missouri a little bit later in the year, you try to find that, internal motivation to put a little bit of a chip on the shoulder of these guys. Is it going to matter? Probably not, but what else are you going to do?
I think that's a good way to put it. Like, I don't think there should be any misconception of like, oh yeah, this team's about to just rattle off a ton of wins. Like at this point, that would be the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. But yeah, I think that's a good point, that each game kind of has its own motivation within. So, and again, I know that everyone kind of views it this way of like, oh, these players get paid a ton of money, they don't care anymore. That just hasn't been backed up by what we've seen on the court. We've seen a bad basketball team, but we have not seen a team that's just mailed it in. And so I definitely think there's going to be something to that. Like you said, will it matter? Probably not. But in terms of just what's left for this season and what kind of effort we're going to get from this Razorback squad, especially with a week to kind of soul search and really think and dig deep. We saw some of that desperation come out against Georgia. You'd think as you get here down the stretch, there's going to be a lot of that desperation. And if you can't get up to play against the best teams in the country, which Arkansas is about to get ready to play with, Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, maybe not A&M, I wouldn't consider them that. But yeah, if you can't get up for those games, and it's like, then what are you doing? And then it becomes, you can just look at these players and be like, look, if y'all don't want to play in this game, then how are you going to want to play in the NBA? How are you going to want to play and do all that? And so I actually do think from a motivational standpoint, probably it's not even going to be that tough of a sell. I just seriously question whether or not this Arkansas team is good enough to rattle off consistency and rattle off enough wins in a row. And like we've kind of said all along, they're just going to have to beat teams they're not supposed to beat. And at this point in time, it's really hard to see the vision for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then also throwing in where, if we've covered Razorback athletics for a while, and I know Razorback fans have been watching Razorback games for a while in all sports, you can refer back to what it looked like when a team quit or when a team gave up. Like you have direct examples of that. Like in football, for instance, just 2 years ago in that 4-8 season, those last games against Auburn and Missouri at home where you got just destroyed, that was give up. There was times during the John Pelphrey years, give up. Chad Morris years, give up. Like you've seen teams that just give it up. But then you've seen teams that were not good, but they still had the effort in there. So maybe this is something that you can kind of point to. But I just don't think anybody who is looking at this team and what they're doing now and saying, oh, this team's mailing it in, they're giving up whatever. You're just not looking at the right things. That's not what this is. Doesn't say, oh, well, gee, as long as they're not winning, but I'll take an effort because that's just as good. No, you want to win, but it at least gives you a little bit of feeling of, hey, no matter what, maybe this team screws around a little bit and finds a way to beat a team. Maybe it happens this Saturday. against Kentucky. I don't know if you guys heard Arkansas Kentucky playing this weekend. It was in all the papers this morning. So yeah, be sure to check that out. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty fascinating. And speaking of that, I will get to your chats, folks, here in a second. I did want to play this clip from John Calipari after the Razorback loss against Oklahoma. He was asked, because we don't get to talk to him, so he was asked about Kentucky and the return to Rupp Arena and what that's going to be like.
I'm still on this game, but yeah, there'd be some emotion walking into that building and really being in town. Probably get together with some of my friends. They're playing good. We got our hands full, and let's see what happens. They're a good team. Mark's doing a good job with them. So we just got to keep going, keep fighting, keep figuring this out. What does this team look like? What do we have to play like? So, okay? All right, thanks, guys.
And that's the last we'll hear from John Calipari until 11 p.m. Saturday.
I have it on good authority that our good buddy Andrew Hutchinson inquired with an unnamed person with the University of Arkansas and was like, "Hey, is there any chance maybe we'll get a Cal midweek presser?" And it was shut down very aggressively. They were very
Imagine that.
You know, Hutch likes to heat up the SIDs every now and then. They don't put up with his crap, and they shut him down aggressively. They thought he was an idiot for asking that.
Well, and his offense, I mean, if he was legitimately thinking that would happen, he is kind of an idiot for even suggesting that, because it ain't. But no, I've just, that's how really cutthroat it's been.
I'm looking forward to hearing from Kenny Payne Thursday.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, like, he's still doing his show, right, at Sassy's? Is that tonight?
If he's doing it, it would be tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know why he wouldn't, but
I know. Needs to be like the days where Mike Anderson mic'd up, which was a great name. Mic'd Up with Mike Anderson was the name of the show.
it is good.
But I remember media, Bob Holt, Nate Allen, they'd show up there, wouldn't do anything, but they'd just sit there. And of course, Nate was drinking a beer and hanging out and stuff. But I was always like, man, maybe that's the way the media gets back in it. They just show up to the coach's show and grab the microphone from Chuck and Z, be like, hey, answer this question. Probably not, but
the better request I feel like from Hutch would have been, hey, what are the chances we could get DJ Wagner and Adu Thero
Yeah,
in the middle of the week? You know,
that'd be ideal.
Because that would be cool.
More beneficial than hearing from an unnamed assistant coach. Like, it really just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and maybe they will do that. I'm not holding my breath, but the Cal, wishful thinking, worth a shot. Shoot your shot, Hutch.
Yeah,
you know,
turn around though, Curse.
Yeah, worst they can do is aggressively say no, which is what they did. So
you think Cal, like, he does his radio show tonight and maybe practice tomorrow, and he's just like, hey, Chuck, Kenny, Chin, you guys got this. I'll be in Lexington. Gotta go see my friends, you know.
Yep.
I wonder if he'll go early. He'll fly. He might fly out there with us on Wednesday. He'll probably be on our same flight. He'll get there early to kind of check out the neighborhood
and everything. Yeah.
Should we try and find that neighborhood where he was walking the dog?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure people will tell us where it's at.
Recreate the video.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do a lot of things like that. So
Yep. Yeah, we'll get creative with it when we get there. But here's the deal: is I'm glad the question was asked, and that answer that he gave was not anything new or surprising or groundbreaking or anything like that. But I mean, it is time. Like, guys, once the whole thing happened with Cal being hired at Arkansas, even if we didn't have the SEC schedule, what it was going to look like, we knew. Everyone knew this game. This is the game of the regular season in college basketball, as far as intrigue and interest go. Obviously, the circumstances aren't what everyone, at least in Arkansas, wanted, because Arkansas is not a good basketball team. I think everybody was expecting Arkansas and Kentucky to both be really good teams, NCAA tournament teams entering into this game. Not the case. But even besides that, this is the game. Everything was circled. Everything is leading up to this. And honestly, and this is just going to be our opinion, but honestly asking, how is Cal going to feel about it? Like, he'll say one thing, but is it going to be truly oh man, I just had such a good time here? And is there going to be some little angst and fire? Be like, I'm going to show these jerks about it. Like, what is Cal's honest emotion going to be going into that game?
Yeah, man, it's really hard to say. It's definitely going to be impacting him, I think, a lot more than he'll ever let on or show us. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm going to be real fascinated to see his response. the mixture between boos and applause, if he acknowledges it, like, does he come out there when they announce him? Does he wave at everybody? Like, just what's that going to look like is, it's going to be crazy, man. And I also wonder, to piggyback on that, like, how much does the lack of success that they're having this season eat at him going into this game? Cause it's hell, had they just beat freaking Oklahoma on Saturday, there'd be so much more anticipation about this one. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm excited about it. I absolutely am. It's a huge national storyline, but just with Arkansas where it's at, it's just kind of like, man, this is just not going to be as good as it should be,
We set the bar so freaking low. We were like, just beat Oklahoma, have your 2 wins in a row. We can kind of feign a little bit of, hey, this is the turnaround. This is it. It would have just made this week so much easier. I'm still like, I'm pissed off now that they lost that game against Oklahoma. But moving on though, John, would you go as far as to say as this is a Super Bowl? We're not think Super Bowl Sunday, but like this is pretty much both teams Super Bowl.
Yeah, it might be. I know it's for sure Kentucky's Super Bowl. I mean, they've been making sure that forget the games against Tennessee or Auburn. This is their number 1 Super Bowl. So yeah, I would say it's the case.
In terms of Cal's like motivation, I have no doubt that like deep down, he definitely wants to stick it to these guys. He would definitely like to win the game. I mean, if nothing else, I have no reason to believe that he's not a guy who coaches to win every game. He wants to win every game he coaches. Of course, everyone wants to win. But in terms of it, like, I don't think he's as been out of shape where he's like got, the newspaper clippings up in his office and he's like really seething over it. I think there's definitely a small, maybe even a large part of him that really like wants to shove it to those guys. But I definitely think, to your point, like the lack of success Arkansas has had probably kills some of that. And I also I really don't think he views Kentucky in like a super negative regard. I definitely don't think he views like the people of Lexington. I think it would be more for like just the naysayers, the national media guys, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm sure he's going to have some motivation, but I don't think it's like a kill these guys at all costs type of mentality.
I think he's going to, this is just going with the assumption, say if Arkansas pulls some stuff out of their rear end and found a way to win this game. I'm not predicting it at all, but say if that happened, Cal, I would think would be give the best way of insulting them a little bit while also coming across as like the ultimate nice guy in weird way. Like if the press conference happened, he'd sit there and he'd say, the thing is I'm not surprised we won this game. We're a good team. We really are. We just haven't had things. And going in this, I felt like we had a good enough team to go in and beat this team in Kentucky. They're a good team. We just beat a good team. Who did we beat? We beat the Kentucky basketball team. And Mark's doing a great job, to win this game, guys, against a well-coached team like Mark Pope. That's what he would do. And then, but I know that's what he would, but man, I love it when coaches get out of their character a little bit and do some fun stuff. Cal would never do it, but man, if Arkansas won and he did that Eric Musselman throw that L to the crowd or something like that, or, he just puts a video on Twitter of him lighting up a cigar after the game, something like that. I don't know. He won't, but you got to think him behind the scenes with that mafia kind of mentality. It's like, it's not going to be a big, like all in crazy going in and trying to beat a team. It's going to be more like, hey, in the shadows and in the night, I'm going to take care of business against you. And I'm going to leave and walk away scot-free smiling. I
mean, the meme of the guy who's standing at the podium and he's like in like 20th place or whatever, but he's like popping champagne and he's celebrating. And then they pan out and it's like everyone else, he's like in last place or whatever, but he's celebrating.
Yeah.
That's going to be us on Saturday. If Arkansas wins this game, we're going to go on the media tour of a lifetime, the victory lap of a lifetime if Arkansas wins this game. And everyone will get to say, yeah, but you still suck. Okay.
True.
I wonder if he will. Like, I'm almost as intrigued for the post game as I am the game itself. He's been averaging about 7 minutes per post game press conference. If they lose, is it less than that? If they win, is it more than that? Is he going to be at Kentucky and do the thing where like, okay, like one more question before I get on a plane and head home, when we know he's probably going to spend the night and stay in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see it all.
Yeah. And just seeing as he do the thing of talking to media members like, hey, Mike, it's good. How's the life? Okay. Yeah. What's your question? Approaching it that way. I'll be curious, when he would come to Arkansas too, before he was the coach, he'd go to Herman's or whatever and hang out. He says he's going to visit friends. Is he going to be like public in Lexington? Is like he going to go to the restaurant?
1,000%.
I've been told that his assistants like to go eat a steak at Jeff Ruby's, which is probably not within our budget. But I don't know if he'll be hanging out with them. But yeah.
Oh man. Well,
Somebody told me, and I don't know if this is true or not, but like towards the end of his tenure, that he started like, instead of the SID doing it, he would like point to guys out there at Kentucky to ask questions because he was like specific on who he wanted to ask. I wonder if he'll do that in there. He's like, no, I know what he's asking. No, you.
Yeah, why not? Like, what does he care if it's Kentucky media? He doesn't care anymore. Like, yeah, no, only you. Because what was the guy's name that was there forever with Kentucky? It's not Tipton. You know what I'm talking about?
Jerry Tipton.
Oh yeah, Jerry. See, I was thinking Joe Tipton. I was like, no,
I know. Yeah,
Jerry Tipton. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure that like him and maybe some actual Big J journalist. I don't think the KSR guys will get any questions. Usually, he didn't seem to be too big of a fan of that.
I can't wait to talk to those dudes this week.
Oh man, it's going to be awesome.
Good stories. We need to, whether it's at KS Bar or whatever, we need to maybe get with some of those guys and have a drink or two and just share stories. I think that'd be a good time.
Yeah. And show that, hey, and like we can have like the the handshake picture photo op of like us like coming together. It's like, see, we're friends. It's all in fun, for the masses and the people. So but all right. So let's get to a few of your chats, folks, and we'll continue on and talking and all things here on a Reaction Monday. So we'll get to best and worst of the week. And again, call in 478-344-6623 if you guys want to get in on that. Chat's always something.
There's one that we can't pull up.
Yeah, great. Those are my favorite ones. David just comes in. He's like, how do you guys afford plane tickets to these games? Like these games, what do you mean? Like this is our first flight that we've taken, for one.
Yeah.
And two, well, as soon as the schedule got dropped, when February 1st, Arkansas, Kentucky, like I went on and I booked it, and it was pretty reasonable, I'll say. Like it was not as absurd as what it probably is now, but yeah, we made it work, and we felt like, hey, if there's one event to go to this regular season, it's got to be that. So
yeah, we do a lot of driving.
Yes,
I just feel like people probably saw us in the DFW area like 15 weekends in a row. Well, we drove.
Yes,
driving to Auburn, John and I. So yeah,
yep, driving there. We drove to Birmingham.
We did
the SEC Media Day. Birmingham.
We definitely don't travel for just like Arkansas on the road at South Carolina. We're not just like flying out for the hell of it. Yeah, this is kind of a once, and it's it's not like it was free, but it really wasn't that like big of a deal for this one particular game. It was definitely a way better idea than it seemed like at the time.
Yes, absolutely. Also, Ryan says, I'll say the offense has started to look like an offense. We're rebounding better, playing harder. I know losing sucks, but I'd rather watch us lose this way compared to how we were. Which he followed that up later with like, that was the most loser statement I've ever made. LOL. But
it was not wrong.
They just win another way.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it the same way, as stupid as it is. Because here's the thing. We are going to watch these games no matter what. Curtis is going to do Pod at the Palace continuing on. You guys are going to do Pod at the Palace post game no matter what. So, shame on us for hoping that at least in the losses, there's some sort of intrigue and interest and entertainment from it. Like you don't want to lose, and it'd be a lot more fun to talk about wins and losing, but at least in those losses, make it entertaining instead of being like, here's a 25-point drubbing where you scored 48 points. Like, at least make it somewhat entertaining.
Yeah.
Let's see. David says, this is a good question because I actually was curious about this too. He says, will every SEC team play in the SEC tournament? I am not swiping at Arkansas, just thinking only 16 teams will play in the SEC tournament. It would be the first for the league.
Yes, they all do. Okay. It's kind of the same idea, I think, where there are 4 games with like 9 through 16 or something that play, and then they move up and they play the 5 through 8, and then the 1 through 4 still get a double bye, I think is how it works.
Well,
but yeah, everybody gets it.
16 teams kind of makes it easier. Like 14 was a weird number where you had like the Wednesday night sadness and you have 2 emerge from that into a 12-team tournament. 16 is actually like a pretty cut and dry, like that's a pretty ideal tournament setup. So I think it actually kind of works for the SEC.
Yeah, it's like the Sweet 16 minus the everything. Like it's just the same setup. just with SEC teams, which who knows, maybe a lot of those SEC teams will actually be in the Sweet 16 when it's all said and done. But
I think even baseball now is having everybody go now, because back in the day there would be 2 that wouldn't go when there was 14 teams. I think now even baseball, I think everybody's going to play now.
That's so great. I love the fact that they're having more games in Hoover to get rained out and delayed and cause problems. Great.
We're not driving to that.
It's not on the schedule.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got other things. I'm sure that will be happening.
Well, at that point, we will be driving to it because Arkansas will be like 52-0. We'll be having to go see if like they can keep the undefeated season alive. So I think we'll have to probably drive.
Yeah. We'll cross that bridge. BTC Pack says, John, I bet you they win 6 SEC games. Bet I will take that bet. They ain't winning 6 SEC games. I'll take that right now.
That would be 5 and 6 down the stretch here.
Yes,
it's a lot more complicated now than it was Saturday. So it's gonna be tough.
That was the big one,
and not just because they lost to Oklahoma, but like even though they've been playing well, it's always kind of like, where can you find a road win or whatever? And Vanderbilt is just always going to be on that list. But it's like, well, they've court stormed Tennessee and Kentucky the last 2 Saturdays, so we can probably go ahead and chalk that one up in the other direction at this point.
I mean, Arkansas is going to be like a 9-point underdog in that game.
Yeah, they're good.
Favored.
Well, that's what I was looking at. Is like, okay, so if you say winning 6 gives them 5 more SEC wins, like even if I did the easiest, the 5 easiest SEC games left on the schedule, like you're talking about LSU at home,
and they already beat you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Texas, I guess, who. That you played them twice, but both those games, 3, and then Vanderbilt,
South Carolina.
Yeah,
South Carolina
on the road.
I forgot that one.
Which they're in 1 possession games on their home floor against everyone.
Yeah, and then like Vanderbilt. No, you're not winning. Yeah. That would be the 5 you would have to win, and then maybe you lose one of those, and then who would be the upset pick? You're gonna beat Tennessee, or you're gonna beat not Tennessee. You're gonna beat.
Auburn on the road.
Auburn on the road.
A&M
at
on the road.
home.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, look, Arkansas could get to 6. It's not like it's an impossible thing to do, but when you lose to Oklahoma at home, it becomes really hard to like make the case, because it's like, if you can't beat Oklahoma at home, you're gonna have to play way better than that to beat some of these teams that we're talking about. And so it's
right.
It's a tough sell to make. I wouldn't be stunned at all if Arkansas got to 6, which by the way, 6 probably still doesn't get you in that bubble conversation, but yeah, I just think when you lose Oklahoma at home, it's really hard to count anything as a surefire dub.
I pulled this up from Wade. He just says if they win Saturday, does that change anything? To me, sort of, because I viewed Oklahoma as a must win. Like if you're gonna even be close to the conversation, you got to win that game. But then, admittedly, like I was kind of chalking up Kentucky as a loss. So if you lose the one at home, but then you go win the one you're not supposed to. In a way it evens out a little bit, but it's also a much better win to get. So it would just kind of like keep the door is shut. It's just not locked yet. Like I'm not even going to call it cracked, but that's kind of where I'd be if it happened.
Dude, I love comments like this where it's like, you need to get to 2 first. Don't talk about 6. Do y'all think the team is watching our damn show and they're like, well, they think we're going to win 6. So we got to, like nothing that we say has an impact. I mean, I'm not saying it completely, but it's like none of this has any relevance to the mentality of the damn team. I don't think DJ Wagner is sitting here tapped in, listening to the show, and he's like, well, they said we need to win 6. So we better get to winning. Like,
or they're sitting there.
You're right, Neil.
Or they're sitting there and they're like, hey, those guys on Inside Arkansas Live, they said that this was Kentucky's Super Bowl. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let me get back into the gym and work on those free throws.
I better be dialed in this weekend.
Yeah.
But seriously though, like, and I would say it's not even like we're like definitively being like they're going to win 6. We're like, they maybe could win 6 if everything goes correctly. I think a lot of times people just think that we're like more confident in our team than we are. We pretty much shut down the idea that they should be expecting to win 6.
Yeah, absolutely. A few more chats here too. I really like this one from Ryan. I don't know which one y'all started, but all the videos from Lexington should be titled "Behind Enemy Lines," brought to you by Outside Arkansas.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
That is good. We're definitely stealing the Outside Arkansas joke for sure.
Yeah.
So to get this comment off the screen, don't let anybody remember it.
Yeah. Nobody just delete it from your memory. It didn't happen. We came up with it. But no, it is going to be fun because I also saw Kingsley say y'all are missing out on some big opportunity with road trip video montages. Here's the thing. Like in our road trips before, though, I'm going to be honest. There was nothing exciting about them. Like, what's exciting about driving from Fayetteville to Dallas? Like when me and Curtis did it, or when y'all did it before. I mean, yeah, there could be some things, but this is going to be an event where we're there multiple days, and there'll probably be one of those things you're talking about. So we'll have some fun with
John,
it.
why did you have the camera out at that Mexican place in Birmingham? When we were eating those, or we were drinking those $1 Busch Lights. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a good vlog material. Right
People
That
would have
was a
loved
missed
to have seen us just sitting there, just being like, I feel like we've been like King of the Hill, just yep, just over and over and over again, just hanging out and having a good time. Of course, I don't know. Maybe people would be interested in that. Who knows? Also, Wayne and Bray says, hey, UK fan here, United Kingdom fan. Started watching you guys, Curtis specifically, back during transfer portal window, and was jealous of y'all's class. Oh, never mind. The class is in the team, not our class is in individuals.
Yes.
Says, I've evolved from rooting against Cal to now rooting for a turn around.
Thank you.
So
We appreciate that. A decent amount of people, like there's always going to be the haters and the banter. That's part of it. But an increasing number of BBN have gone from hate watching to being like, this guy's all right.
It's almost like the back-to-back losses for them, and probably going to be 3 in a row, is maybe changed a little bit in their narrative.
If Arkansas was balling, then they probably wouldn't.
No, heck no. Heck no. It was like, I'll never forget the times I made the trip and I was in college, to Tuscaloosa for the Alabama football game, Arkansas, Alabama. It's like a road trip at the Razorback, some student thing. We went down there, and it was the first time I ever been in Tuscaloosa. Nicest fans ever. Could not be nicer. And then afterwards, people were like, man, why? I'm surprised. I've heard some horrible things. I'm like, because they beat us 52-0. We're not a threat. That's why they were nice. It's like
also, you're at a venue with 100,000 people.
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be some good apples in there. There's going to be some bad apples in there. It's like, it's just one of those things. It's not like every fan base in the SEC is like Philadelphia, where they're beating you with pillowcases full of batteries whenever you walk out there.
Yeah. Pillowcases and batteries. Yeah. Also, appreciate the super chat from Chip Sizemore. Thanks, Chip. Appreciate you. He says, when did the conversation begin for new AD? Collectively, this is the worst athletic program I've seen. On your check, leading a football search scares me. Well, comes out of left field, but Chip,
I guess when he gets a job,
yeah,
it's not for a lack of trying. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm not saying that Hunter Yurachek will for sure leave, but I would just say if Yurachek after the spring semester went somewhere else, I would not be shocked. I'll just say that.
I would also say there's a 0% chance Hunter Yurachek would be leading a football coaching search for Arkansas. I think football coaches are kind of like, it's not every single time that like a football coach gets fired, the AD gets fired too, but in situations like this, a lot of times the two guys are tied together, especially when you've publicly made it clear you're going to go down with the ship. When the ship goes down, that's usually when the AD change. So I think I agree with you, John, where like whether it's him being fired or if it's just him trying to find another ship to get on, I definitely don't think you're going to have a scenario where Hunter Yurachek chooses the next Arkansas football coach. So I would say if you're wondering when, that's kind of the timeline.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good segue for us to jump into our SEC update presented by Rhoback. Go to Rhoback.com. Use promo code HOGSBY20 for 20% off your first purchase with all their great performance gear. You got to check them out at Rhoback.com. Razorback gear. Hey, even you Kentucky fans, they have Kentucky gear too. So just use Hogs by 20. I know you'll have to hold your nose typing that out, but just do it and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. And speaking of that, a few things that happened in the SEC, of course, in the weekend that is college basketball. Some good games, honestly. We knew going into it, the big one was, of course, Auburn and Tennessee. That game being played at Auburn. Low scoring affair, needless to say, but Auburn does get the hard-fought victory, 53-51. And now Tennessee, which is crazy. Tennessee is now 4-3 in the SEC, but I still feel like they're like the second best team in the SEC. But Auburn continues on. They're 6-0, 18-1. Janai Broome comes back, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 4 block shots. Dude's player of the year right now, and I don't think it's really close. So, really hard-fought match between two good teams that'll probably meet each other once again here this season.
Yeah. Janai Broome is definitely SEC player of the year. His primary competition got benched the entire second half on Saturday. So there's that controversy brewing up. But yeah, Auburn, they're just really good. They're really good. And I thought this was a prime opportunity for them to finally lose a game, even though it was in there. And I've been feeling that way for like 3 weeks now, and it just hasn't happened. Maybe it won't.
Yeah, we've seen Auburn kind of like come down to earth a little bit because, there was a while there where they were beating everybody by 40. And obviously that's a little bit of non-conference, but like we were kind of wondering, like, are they just going to be a juggernaut through this whole thing? Like there was that stretch where their offensive efficiency was like historically great. Like they were like on pace to be the best offense in college basketball ever. They've calmed down from that, obviously, but I actually like think they're like super dangerous because they're going through their lull and still winning. By the way, with that game, you mentioned it was a low scoring affair. It tipped off at the same time as Arkansas's game, 7:30. And I remember I was not really paying attention, but I saw on the bottom ticker it pop up. And right before it went away, I saw the score 38-38. And I was sitting there and I was like, and Arkansas's game was almost over at this point. And it was like, whatever, like 57-55 or something like that. And I was like, I thought those games tipped off at the same time. And I was like sitting there thinking, I'm like, was there like the game before went late, so that game tipped off later? There were 6 minutes left in the game, and it was 38-38. But I just like, in my brain, I really was trying to like rack and figure out, like, did that game tip off late? Why is the score so low? It was just that kind of game.
Mm-hmm. It really was. And, Auburn, everyone's got a tough schedule in the SEC. But, man, their final 4-game stretch is going to be interesting because they have Ole Miss at Kentucky, at A&M, and then Bama at home to end it. So, like,
that's a doozy, man.
Yeah. But again, until they lose, I'm not saying they're going to go 18-0, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did because I just don't see how many teams are going to beat them this year in the SEC, at least in the regular season. So, said it before, I'll say it again. If you don't, Auburn, if you ever wanted, and if you're ever going to win a national championship in college basketball, this is your year to do it. Like you have the best team, so this is your time.
Well, and the crazy thing about it is they just keep overcoming stupid stuff within the team as well. This is it was one of my worst of weekends. I'm going to say it anyway, but the Ja'Kai Howard kid, the freshman, who's super, super talented. This is also one of the guys who was responsible for the emergency plane landing before they went and beat Houston.
Yeah.
But he got in the game and he came out, and I guess Bruce Pearl said he was mad about his rotation or something, but he's like live tweeting at halftime with like the prayer emojis and everything. And then him and Bruce Pearl are having a discussion at the start of the second half, and he like kicked his ass out, sent him to the locker room. Like you're in the middle of a game with College Game Day, and you're playing a top 10 opponent or whatever, and you're kicking guys off your bench that are on your own team. You just win. You have a fight on an airplane. They have to do an emergency landing and get you there later. It's fine. Just go beat Houston on the road. Like, it's crazy.
Listen, that's really, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's like and we talked about it at the time when they had the weird thing against Houston where the guy gets kicked off the plane. That's the sign of real greatness, is like everyone, obviously, when all things come together, you get everyone that's playing at their best. Yeah, everyone's going to be playing well then. Everyone can win under those circumstances. But when you're in a college basketball situation where the tournament is single elimination, you have to be on. You have to find a way to win 6 straight. Seeing a team like Auburn who just seems to roll with whatever punch is thrown at them, whether it's a broom injury, whether it's a weirdo going rogue tweeting at halftime, whether it's a fight, like they just find a way to win. And I feel like that's what makes them so scary. And obviously they check all the boxes, in terms of just on court production. They have all the skill sets, they do it all. I just really think like you said, John, if they don't win the title this year, let's go ahead and just declare it now. If Auburn doesn't win the title, sham of an organization.
I mean, yeah.
It's not a serious program.
Being in that situation, obviously, Arkansas fans of baseball know what that's like. It kind of sucks when you've got that target on your back the whole year, and Auburn's definitely approaching that territory.
Yeah, it's just I laugh at it because we brought up the stuff that they went through, and I was like, they're still winning. If any of that stuff ever happens in Arkansas, automatically, like if someone gets in a simple argument on the bench, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to lose the next 5 games. Like it's just amazing. It's like those little things will have a major impact, but Auburn having having to have an airplane change to go back just because of a fight on the airplane, that doesn't change them losing, winning, whatever it is. So
I'll never forget when Jeff Goodman was like, source tells me that it was just horseplay. Hey, if we have some horseplay on the flight Wednesday, you think they're going to turn the flight around and land it back in at XNA? Of course not. That's crazy. They were throwing hands, man. It's just unreal. By the way, I need to clarify real quick. Thank you for somebody who finally did for me, but people thought I was calling Jonas Adude Janai Broom's competition for SEC Player of the Year. No, Jonas Adude did get benched in the second half, as he should have. I was referring to Mark Sears at Bama.
Yeah. Who's been benched a few times now, right? Mark Sears?
Yeah, just for the record. One time he benched himself in a game. He was like, hey, I'm good. And then this one, I don't think it was his decision because he was clearly upset, and so was his mother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heaven forbid we can't see her do the little free throw thing. Did you guys know she does that? Did you guys know that? That she falls through the free throws? Yeah.
I've seen it once or twice, maybe.
Yeah. It's just man, between that and Robert Moore's dad, we know exactly all these things that continue on. It gets mentioned every time. But speaking of that, Alabama did beat LSU 80-73. Not a dominating performance by Bama, but still
that was close until the very end there.
Yeah, but still got the win. They're 6-1 in SEC play. Florida just beat the brakes off of Georgia by 30.
Took away Arkansas's their second quad one win because of that.
Man, thanks a lot, Georgia and Mike White. Which we'll talk about something dealing with Florida here in a second. A few other things of note. Mississippi State went to overtime against South Carolina on the road. 65-60, though. They did get the victory, but hard-fought game there. Missouri beats Ole Miss 83-75. Ole Miss is a little struggling right now. I mean, still a good team, but
hitting a lull.
Yeah.
Missouri just at home, they're so hard to beat. They look like a different team when they come into Bud Walton. I don't know that Arkansas is going to beat them in there, but they got something cooking that home arena this year.
Wasn't Missouri 5-2 in the SEC now?
Yep.
Dude, I mean, seriously, what a job by Dennis Gates.
Unreal, man.
Seriously, it's kind of like something we've kind of poked fun at a little bit, but
he probably should have been fired, and then
No, man, it's crazy. Is he? I guess they're the South Carolina of this year, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like we kind of all season we're like, okay, this isn't a real thing. This isn't a real thing, and then you look up and they're like 14-4, and you're like, all right,
okay,
there we are. Ole Miss, after the way they lost to A&M, it was A&M that they lost to the last second, right?
Mm-hmm.
God, yeah,
that's the kind of loss that can really flip your season. And Ole Miss is frankly like not talented enough to get away with like not being good at stuff like they're I could see them struggling a little bit. They're going to end up kind of being on that weirdly enough on that bubble watch.
And going back to the Missouri thing, I know there's different circumstances, but also with the job Dennis Gates is doing, it also shows you just how big of a difference 1 year can make. Like for Arkansas, like right now, hey, it sucks right now, but hey, Dennis Gates is proving he went 0-18 for crying out loud. 1 year, boom. He's in the NCAA tournament, top 25 team, and has 5 wins in the SEC already through 7 games. So 1 year can make a difference. That took place. I want to bring up this game. Texas beat Texas A&M. And this game is in Austin, 70-69. 2 things about it. One, I mean, Texas is a top 15 team. That was huge. Texas came from behind 22 points to win this game. And guess who had to hit the game-winning shot against the Aggies? Former Razorback Tremont Mark.
Tremont Mark gigs them, man.
Telling you.
He just does it for a living.
He's 3-0 in his last 3 against him.
Yeah, I'm not even saying that he's like it was the same exact spot, but it was pretty close to even the type of shot that he had against A&M when he was at Arkansas last year. So yeah, Tremont Mark loves beating up on the Aggies and hitting that. But you talk about bad losses. I'm not saying like bad losses to Texas on the road, but the way you did, dude, you're up 22 points. And no matter, I don't care what venue you're in. If you are up 22 points in a college basketball game at any point in time, you should win that game 100% of the time. And if you don't, that is detrimental. That's horrible for that to happen.
Brutal beat.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, this is not a SEC update, but you want to talk about blown leads. Kansas was up 6 with 14 seconds left and was at the free throw line for 2 shots with DeJuan Harris, their point guard. And they end up going to, I guess this was in either the first or second overtime. They end up missing both free throws, 3 steal, 3, another overtime. They lose there. That's one of the worst losses of the season. And that was a cool game. I mean, between 2 top 15 teams, but that's about as bad of a beat as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
At home too.
Yeah.
Kansas,
It was tough. It was tough. And speaking of that, this will be the final thing for our SEC update, but it was something we talked about when it all happened. Florida and their head coach, Todd Golden, has been cleared in that Title IX investigation for what it was, stalking and everything with students there at the university. It was a 4-month investigation. They say they found no evidence of any of this as far as sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, stalking, or cyber stalking of multiple students or women. It says they take these matters seriously, works deliberately, that due process is upheld. But after a thorough investigation included dozens of interviews over the past months, Florida has found no evidence, and they have closed their investigation. and that's that. So,
Man, and that's there's been like rumor mill stuff on that since like the summer, and it makes you wonder like who had it out for this guy.
I'm telling you.
Like it's some crazy stuff. And then I was reading, man, I should have pulled it up and maybe we can find it. But the statement that his attorney or whoever put out, or the Florida attorney or whatever, and it was talking about how like people were trying to intimidate witnesses at Florida to spin the narrative, and that somebody misrepresented himself as an attorney or something to try to get information. And
it says Coach Golden and I have respected the processes as attorney at the university. However, there were many that did not respect the investigative process. Instead, they sought to target Coach Golden and drive their agenda in this investigation for their own self-interest. Some leaked confidential material to the media, falsely posed as a Florida lawyer in an effort to intimidate, harass Florida students and parents to try to generate a false narrative, harass my client, his family, and his friends. So,
sheesh, man,
That's
crazy.
That is crazy, man. It was very interesting. And look, this is a very like sticky situation. So like the whole time, even from the jump, and we even said that on the show, it's like one of those, you just don't want to jump to any conclusions one way or the other. Like it's just a very weird situation. But in the moment when Florida right off the bat didn't like suspend him, didn't do anything weird, at the moment we were like, man, that's risky. But the way that play out, it's like that it worked out for them. Is he no longer the Golden Gooner?
I think he still is.
Or
I
no?
think he still is, but
Well, when you still got the assistant still doing some stuff as well, it's like there's a little something going on. Have y'all seen? And this is a weird off topic thing. Have y'all seen the like vote thing that the Florida basketball team does? Where it's like they I think it's the Florida basketball team, but it's like they do like a whiteboard and it'll be like they'll do like a poll and it'll be like best Florida athlete or whatever. It'll be like Tim Tebow, Steve Spurrier, and they all vote on it or whatever. But there's some Florida beat writer that keeps putting it out because they changed the topic and like everyone gets to kind of vote. And what's that guard they have? Michael Clayton Jr. He was
Walter
on
Clayton,
the list. Yeah. He got a few votes, and I was like, all right, good for them. But it's like a cool little thing they do.
Interesting.
Yeah, imagine a school a program doing cool things. Must be nice.
And they're back on track basketball wise, by the way. I mean, they were never like that bad off track, but big win for them over the Dogs, who we know it's really tough to beat the Georgia Bulldogs in basketball.
Yes,
you can do it. You're a really good team.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that they get a week off too. Florida does, or the week. They don't play again until Saturday, where they play Tennessee. So on the road, but so we'll see where they're laying out there. But all right, so yeah, let's go ahead and switch gears over to our Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. I got two of these. One of them will be pretty quick, so we can get through that. But for Razorback Baseball, Hogs preseason number 4 in the country, according to Baseball America, for what that's worth. So I think you had one at 13th preseason, and now you got one at 4th. So makes sense. Makes total sense.
We complained too loudly when they were number 13 from Perfect Game, and we all kind of like made a huge thing. And there were some fans who kind of liked it. They were like, we like being underrated. But we all kind of thought that was weird, and then they overcorrected. Now Arkansas's top 5 in 2 other polls, 5 at D1 Baseball, 4 at Baseball America. And so are the Hog now has the pendulum swung too far the other way to where we're like, getting too much buzz preseason.
Yeah. Well, as the whole thing should be, and this is the rule, folks, by the way, the ranking that you want to say your team is, always do the higher one. No, even if it's some message board fan site or whatever, they have Arkansas number 1. But hey, Arkansas's number 1 according to, weLikeSports.org. So it's like, I'm going to take it seriously there. So that's the rules.
Well, in college baseball, there's literally no shortage of polls, but I think Hog fans, frankly, and by the way, I said this in the moment, so you can fact check this. D1 Baseball is like the poll. I feel like that's the best one. They do the best job in terms of national coverage, and Arkansas is number 5 in that poll. So Hog fans, that's a good way for you to not seem like you're too much of a homer. Being like, I follow the D1 Baseball. They don't have us the highest, but they have us pretty high. That's who I like. But I really do think Kendall Rogers, Aaron Fitt, and those guys, they do a really good job.
Yeah, they really do. But the other side for an Arkansas update, this came out over the week, or this weekend, end of last week, and I thought it was pretty fascinating dealing with college football. So this came out that according to Dr. Ryan Brewer, an alumnus here, is also dealing with the Wall Street Journal that put it out as the most valuable college football programs. when it comes to money and everything. And this was put out there, and he analyzed his study by finances and also looking at top line revenues, growth, drivers of cash flow, projections of the sustainability of the operation, just like you would in any other business dealing it with everything going on. This is a few of the teams of note. Arkansas is 19th in the country of most valuable college football programs at $616 million. The other ones of note in the SEC, at least, I mean, Ohio State's number 1, Texas 2, Michigan 3, Georgia 4, LSU 6, Tennessee 8, A&M 9, Oklahoma 10, Alabama 11, 12, Auburn, 14, Florida. But Arkansas is right there. So, guys, when you see that, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like there needs to be more return on investment in the win column, maybe. But I don't know. Being an SEC school, you always kind of, for everything, like recruiting rankings and everything, you expect Arkansas to be reasonably high, but then pretty low in terms, like relative to their peers. And so I guess that's sort of how I feel here. Although that made them like what, 10th, I think, or 9th or 10th out of the SEC teams. So that's nuts though. But I guess it's like only show in town helps, and there's a lot of different factors that go into that. But also that's a lot of money, boys. That is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. Did y'all see that Missouri was like 50th on the list, and they were just like 180 million or something like that? Like they were like way like a third of Arkansas. Like it was kind of crazy.
Were they the bottom of the SEC?
I think they were the lowest in the SEC for sure, by a pretty by like a $300 million margin or something like that.
Well, Vanderbilt's.
Oh,
were we even able to see that because of their private thing? Or
Probably
I don't think
not.
so. Yeah, because he also threw in things like, which I thought was fascinating, TV viewership was also inclined in there. So apparently, according to that, Arkansas does have a pretty solid TV viewership, comparatively speaking, to other SEC schools. But what it comes down to is like when you see this, that people have a certain way. But like you said, the return on it goes to this. Arkansas has no reason being one of the dogs of the SEC in college football every single year is what it reminds me of. It's like, yes, are you going to be up there with Texas and Georgia and Alabama and all? No, you're not. But if you have that much value, there's no excuse for you to be a constant bottom dweller in the SEC in college football. Just zero excuse for it. Doesn't mean you can't have a bad year. Doesn't mean you can't have any of that. But like the value's there. It's the number 1 game in town. Just continues to kind of confirm that. Because look at the teams that are in front of you. Florida is at $793 million. That's number 14 in the country. You're 19th. You are 5 spots behind Florida. Like, come on, Florida, who's won multiple national championships and all that. So I saw that and I was like, it's not surprising, but still, it's kind of like, sheesh, man. Like, come on now.
I think this particular season is actually a good little microcosm of this. Because I mean, look, Arkansas was 6-6, finished 7-6. Didn't even have like this crazy home slate necessarily, but like they crushed it in attendance. They had a ton of fans there. The TV viewership numbers, we don't know all of them, but like seems like they're kind of there. I think it just kind of shows you, one, how valuable this fan base is and how much they are like attached to this team regardless. Like the Razorback fans are going to show up for the most part, especially for football. Obviously, you're 2-10, it's going to be a little different. But I think that what that tells me there is that there's a lot of value in Arkansas's fan base, and just how much they are behind their team, and only show in town, all that matters. But I also think it kind of just speaks to what we've been saying all the time, that like the idea that people would try to put Arkansas in a box and be like, oh, you can't compete at this high level. It's like I just don't believe that. And I feel like Arkansas, by the way, is at a point, like if they had done this study maybe 7 years ago, probably wouldn't have looked like that. I think Arkansas has actually kind of grown in value just by being average. When you're average at Arkansas, you get propped up by the fan base. And I mean that seriously. I'm not saying that as a knock. I think it kind of just speaks to the potential that you actually have at this university. And I mean, look, every other sport on campus has shown capability of competing at a national level. The idea that Arkansas fans have convinced themselves that they need to be fine with 6-6, 7-5 is just bullshit.
Yeah. Well, and then also it kind of reminds me of like say for Alabama basketball. Now, don't get all your panties in a twist, Alabama basketball fans. I'm just saying, no matter what happens, Alabama basketball, as good as they are, like I still get people telling me that they just don't care as much. Like they care, like they'll pack out their arena and stuff. But as far as the national, I got to talk to my guys that from like Locked On Alabama and everything. they're like, I'm still talking football right now because that's where the attention is, even though the basketball team's really good and all that. And so that's kind of how I look at with Arkansas that makes them unique is that, listen, football, it's not like football are they as good at that as baseball and basketball or whatever? No, they never have been historically. But it's not like nobody cares. Like when you win, if Arkansas had a top 25 team in football, it's nonstop attention being paid. Everyone's going to be there. Everyone's going to show up. Everyone's going to want to talk about it. But there's a lot of places where in other major sports that if you're a top 25 team, like again, the Alabama deal, there's only so many people that are going to care about it. So that's also what makes Arkansas very unique is going to your point about being average. It's not like, oh, well, if they're average, nobody cares. No, they still care. They still care a lot. And it's just a matter of, again, showing the value that you have because everyone says, hey, it's all about money in college sports, which it is. Well, there you go. You're 19th at $616 million.
It's also the last thing I'll say on this. It's also why I don't think the fans should be jumping for joy over this JUCO team they put together in the offseason. Like the idea that like Arkansas can't generate the money. I mean, obviously, like there's other teams that have more money. I mean, they're not in the top, 15 on that list there. But like there is money at Arkansas. And we know there's obviously all these Fortune 500 companies in the state. Like, and you just look over at Ole Miss and you see all that what they're doing. Like, it kind of validates what we've been saying all along of the idea that Arkansas can't compete in the NIL space has always been stupid to me. And that kind of, validates kind of that line of thinking and why I think that Hog fans honestly need to just be holding their team and their program to a little bit higher of a standard.
Yep. I agree there too. All right. That's a perfect little segue as we get into our best and worst of the weekend here on Inside Arkansas Live. If you are a business owner or somebody wants to sponsor best and worst of the weekend, it is available. So hit me up at john@insidearkansas.com. Email me there. But it's always fun to get into this because as we talked about, there's always seems to be a balance or maybe an imbalance of what's worst and what's best. But I'll go ahead and start it off with my best of the weekend here on the show. I went to the gymnastics meet on Friday, and I'll be honest, it was my first one. Arkansas won, which was awesome. Beat LSU, upset them, and it was really cool to see that Bud Walton. They said there was only like 9,000 people there. I swear there was more, but just maybe shows how I have no idea what attendance numbers look like in person. But that was extremely enjoyable. The energy was so high. It was really fun, and I mean that. Like even if Arkansas would have lost, like it was fun. And that was the first one I've ever been to since I've moved back up here. And so I enjoyed that. Of course, getting the win was always fun. I mean, you beat LSU. I was trying to get everyone to storm the mats, go down there and, try to really get an SEC fine. But shout out to Jordan Weber and her group. But also, I'm just saying, guys, Livy Dunn cost LSU the game of the match. I'm just saying she did. She did not do well. She messed up the floor routine, I guess. And that may have cost them. So just saying that because everyone's like, oh, Livy Dunn. Well, maybe she should have just sat this one out. But still, shout out and kudos to Coach Weber and the gymnastics team. It was a lot of fun. Great crowd. Great energy. The hype man was wild. That's the way that the energy needs to be at something like that. So if you haven't experienced one of those, go over there. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, man. Shout out to them for sure. That's awesome. Those are a ton of fun, especially in Bud Walton. Had I been in town, I would definitely like to get out to see that, and maybe we can have an Inside Arkansas outing to check one of those out here in the upcoming future. No, that's really cool, man. Shout out to them. Damn near everything I had for best and worst of the weekend we have already talked about, but I'm not just gonna skip it. So I've got two things that they're more like Arkansas updates, but I'm gonna give them anyway. One. Arkansas senior analyst Sean Fogarty is expected to be hired as offensive line coach at Valdosta State. I don't know what that means, and I'm not entirely sure who that guy is, but he's gone. He's out of here. So there's an update for you.
We've been waiting to see what was going to happen with the Fogarty sweepstakes. That's something we've been talking about on this show, and so there's your answer, Valdosta.
Just real quick about that. Is he the guy that was like DMing people like mad and pissed off? Like if they didn't talk highly of the team?
Wasn't going to say it, but I think that might be him. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
It might be him. I do not know that for certain. I'd have to go back in the archives, but
I just remember things going around about somebody that was on staff that was angrily DMing people saying, hey, these are good players. Stop not saying they're not. And I just didn't know if it was him. So not promoting it now. And I was just asking the question.
No, I feel you on that one. And then it's not a best of the weekend, but could and probably should be a best of your Monday. This evening, it's either at 5:30 or 6:30 over on ESPN2. They're announcing the McDonald's All-American teams, and Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas, two guys who are going to come save the program next season, should both be represented there. If they're not, that's absolute nasty work. But there you go.
Couple burger boys, man. And look, I know we kind of have been jokingly alluding to like, oh yeah, it's just totally, these guys are just going to save everything, fix everything. I know a lot of Hog fans who agree. They're like, it has to make you feel pretty good. Every time I check on Twitter, I see, oh, Malik Thomas, 34, 9, and 7. Oh, Darius Acuff, he went for 32 again. I'm like, dude, those dudes are crushing it every week. Some big time players, man, and I can't wait to watch them play at Arkansas. Definitely exciting. And look, that like regardless of all the jokes you want to make, and Cal's going to do less with more, all that. There was a point in time where having a McDonald's All-American was like a pipe dream at Arkansas. We just didn't see it much. Hell, we made a whole thing about burger boys because it was such a rare occurrence. And so it's something that like we've kind of gotten used to, but I don't think we should. I think it's really cool to see McDonald's All-Americans representing Arkansas.
Real quick to that, Andrew, before you get to your best, I just want to remind everybody the greatest picture ever was when Eric Musselman was staring at the three burgers that when he got Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and Nick Smith Jr. That picture he just had of him and his elbows looking down at the McDonald's burgers. Great stuff. Great time.
One of my best off-season Pinata Farms moves was cropping John Calipari's face onto that after he got Boogie and Carter. And but, here we are. So,
yeah. Arkansas basketball has found a way to ruin burger boys somehow. We can't even celebrate that anymore. But no, those are some good best of the weekend. I also have a little bit of this is like the most Arkansas heavy best and worst of the weekend we've ever had. Because my best of the weekend, the only fun thing I did this weekend was go out and watch some Arkansas baseball scrimmages. We got to watch is the first week of official team practice, even though they've been doing stuff for a while. And there weren't like a ton of, I'm going to talk about it obviously on the Bombastic podcast. If you missed those and you want a full recap rundown of each scrimmage, those are available on our YouTube page on the Bombastic podcast feed. So, you can go check that out. There's not a ton of like groundbreaking, these guys dominated, these guys did this, but I felt like it was just good, solid, sound, competitive baseball. And honestly, man, it's just cool to see those guys. And they take it really seriously. Especially as you get closer to the season, you start to see like that competitive nature come out, and they treated it like as much of a real game as they've ever done. Because sometimes they'll have like a tent set up back there, and you got Matt Hobbs and his analysts that are like, doing all this stuff, and you can tell it's a practice. You can tell it's a scrimmage. It's not a real game. They had it. I mean, they had a real umpire out there. Like it was competitive. Both dugouts were like really cheering on their guys. It's just cool to see. Some of the personality of the team starting to come out. And the guy that I do want to talk about, though, is Nolan Souza, who I said is someone asked me today who's my favorite Diamond Hog. It's Nolan Souza. If you could, like, literally coming off of Nolan Souza's freshman year where he's freshman all SEC and you're kind of forecasting his trajectory as a Razorback, if you could, like, build someone in a lab where you're like, all right, here's what I want that guy to look like as a sophomore, Nolan Souza is that. He's put on some muscle. He's always been a big dude, but he's put on some muscle. He's even bigger. Dude's like 230 now. He's the fastest player on the team. He hit the best this weekend. He was hitting opposite field triples. He was hitting breaking balls the other way. Like he just seems to be taking those strides. I think he's going to end up being like a monster. I think this time next year, we're going to be talking about him as a preseason All-American, a top 50 draft prospect. Like I think he's going to be that guy. And I think when it's all said and done, he will be one of the most loved Razorbacks to come through the baseball program in a while. That's a lot of high praise, but I'm giving it to Nolan Souza because he's my guy. And speaking of the baseball diamond, do y'all remember when I came on this show, Best of the Weekend, and I said that my nephew Cooper made the basketball team at Pineville Junior High in 7th grade? I was really proud of him. Well, his brother, by the way, is the one that will comment on the show every now and then and be like, "What's up, Drew?" It's his little brother, but Cooper. So he made the basketball team. He had a nice little season. His basketball season was cut short because he broke his arm. He had a bad fracture in his forearm. So he missed the last couple months of the season. He was really bummed out about it. But he made his return to action on the baseball field this past weekend. And first at bat back, little 2-strike approach. Let's check it out.
Yes.
Come on.
Take that
Damn near got
sucker the
thrown
other
out of
way.
first there. I didn't like that. I also didn't like that he's wearing a hoodie, but we love the approach.
What's
Go the other way.
January?
Yeah.
January
Freaking-
baseball is nasty word. Good for them though.
Yeah.
It is crazy. I don't know why. It was like that when I was at the same junior high. We started
Really?
our baseball season like January 17th. It was the stupidest thing ever. But, good to see him back out on the diamond. And I don't know if I could say his little brother actually might be my favorite nephew, but that family, I hold them near and dear to my heart. Some future Razorbacks. Hopefully I've been trying to plant those seeds and get all three of them to come to Arkansas just as students. But I love that family. I'm going to give them their props anytime I can.
It's a good piece of hitting right there. Good swing, back elbow was up. I mean, just solid work.
You could see him like trying to get it right. Like he was trying.
Yeah.
His first game back. Love to see that.
Yeah, I'm going to pull what the Drive Time Sports callers would always do. Just be like, hey, Dave, Coach Van Horn, I know you're watching this right now. Kids, he's a good kid. He's got a great swing. His dad's an elder of the church. He's ready. Give him a scholarship. Give him a scholarship right now. Get to recruiting. So, and this is also really random, but to that, do you guys, like me, get DMs from like high school kids that are trying to get their huddle videos and stuff out, and they're like, hey, can you promote this? I get those a lot, and I feel really bad, and it's nothing against y'all. That's not me. Go to a recruiting guy like a Richard Davenport or a Danny West, somebody like that. I'm not your guy for that, but I just didn't know if that was a common thing or not.
Yeah,
I don't get them as much as I used to.
Okay.
But
I think at this point word's gotten out that we're not the guys to reach out to. One of the weirdest things I've had, one of my high school friends, like my friends from my hometown, his dad was trying to get me, his daughter, my friend's sister, was dating a guy who was an offensive lineman at Pineville High School. And he was like getting some offers from like McNeese State and like Northwestern State. And he was like, hey man, if you could show this film to Sam Pittman, I'd really appreciate it. I'm like, who do you think I am? This is like when I was like my first year on the beat. I was like an intern. I'm like, yeah, I don't really think I like have that authority. And if I did, I don't know if I would use it to hype up your daughter's boyfriend. Like, I just don't know if that's how this works.
Yeah. In fact, if I had access to any coach of like their phone number and everything, and I feel like if I sent them a video like, hey coach, check this out, I'd immediately get blocked and I'd never be heard from him again. Yeah. Like,
plus it's like, I don't know how good you guys, even though you're sending me your huddle and maybe I'll watch it, maybe I'll check it out. I'm not going to vouch for you, if I have Sam Pittman's ear, I'm not going to vouch for, any old random schmuck. You better be a star if I'm going to be putting my reputation on the line,
Exactly. Well, for worst of the weekend, because apparently y'all have a few, I only have one. Worst of the weekend for me is the Super Bowl matchup. I'm going to be that guy. It just doesn't do anything for me. In fact, we'll do a little poll question here in just a little bit with Alumni Hall dealing with that, but Chiefs and Eagles just doesn't do anything for me. And there was a few things that also, like from the NFL, a little small part of it, but the fact that they don't have technology and being able to get the spot of the ball today, like, is still wild to me. You got two officials on either side, one on each side, running in from 20 yards away, and they're supposed to know exactly where the ball is supposed to be spotted. You got to fix that. Got to change that. But yeah, Super Bowl just doesn't do anything for me as far as the two teams. And I'll still watch it, but just no excitement for me.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, man, on that one 100%. In a similar note, one of my worst of the weekends, and I might be stealing this from Andrew, but really I'm just trying to tee him up. Did you guys see the Patrick Mahomes wannabe Dylan Raiola in the Chiefs locker room celebrating after the game? Did you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
I did see that. I didn't have that on my worst, but I did see that.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be that. Remember, he has no idea where
he didn't even know who Mahomes was.
Allegedly, that's the case. I didn't. I was cooking dinner while I was watching the game. I really tapped in for the end, but I didn't get super annoyed with the Taylor Swift thing. So maybe they kept the camera. I don't know how close you guys were paying attention. That definitely would have been on my worst of the weekend if it was annoying. The only other one that I had that we haven't already talked about, pretty bluntly, just SEC officiating, man. In basketball, it's just, and I'm not even getting into like, did Arkansas got screwed against Oklahoma? And that, yeah, I mean, there's some questionable stuff there. They probably got the benefit of the calls maybe against Georgia. That's just how it works, but it's just bad, man. And I'm annoyed with the inconsistency. I know people were ticked about the Tennessee Auburn game too. My biggest thing is the way that they're doing this and the constant what do we review? What do we not review? Let's review everything. We're having like 3+ hour basketball games. And when you're playing at 8 o'clock every night, it's like, what the hell are we doing here? It's bad. And it's an SEC issue. And it's not just beat writers from the SEC teams talking about, like, it's a national story about how bad the officiating is. Like, figure it out. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and also too, to that point, like it goes back to what I think I made it last week. It was like, if Curtis Wilkerson puts out a tweet about officiating, that it's real. Like, it's not like just him being pissed. But it was also where I tweeted out something about the officials. It was like in the early second half, or maybe it was late first half, and some what jackhole decided to be like, huh, this guy's saying this, and Arkansas only has 4 fouls called on him. Okay, buddy. Like, or maybe it's not just about the fouls. Maybe it's about the stoppages in play for every single freaking review known to man. And then, the foul call with 0.2 seconds left. Luckily, the ball didn't lie. But like right before half, it's just,
that was good.
Golly, I'm just so like, yeah, I'm with you though. That's very, very frustrated and very annoying. And I mean,
and the weird thing about it is, it's like it continues to get brought up with the SEC specifically, but it's in a lot of cases, like, these guys are traveling over the country and they're officiating like 4 games in 5 days or something weird. It's not all SEC games. You know what I mean? Like, they have some of their designated ones, but these guys are all over the place. Like, I don't know why this has to be such a huge conference freaking issue. But for me, it's just about, like, let's not turn this into a baseball game. No disrespect.
Yeah.
But like, we don't need all the stoppages in play. We don't need 3-hour games. Like, come on now.
I'm glad you said what you said, Curtis, where it's not even about the whole, oh, we got screwed and, oh, this team got screwed. Because a lot of times, and we say this a lot, that like, we feel like the games are poorly officiated and it doesn't necessarily favor one team or the other. I think you can make that case for both of Arkansas's home games this week, that it was just a poorly officiated game all around. And, did it favor one team? Did it favor the other? Like, I just think we can all agree it's not good and it's hurting the product. I mean, the Georgia game the other day, that was tough, dude. Like, if you didn't have a rooting interest, I don't know how you consume that product. And that's why I'll be honest with you. Like, I have a hard time really tapping in. Obviously, with SEC basketball, we're close enough to it. And if it's a big game, if it's UConn versus somebody or whatever, but it's really tough for me to just turn on a Big Ten game and watch it and just go all the way through. And unless I have a bet on it, it's like, God, this is a hard product sometimes. And I think college basketball definitely, it's long overdue for kind of a overhaul a little bit. I'm glad they changed the block charge thing, because that was tough for a while, but still a lot of work to be done in that regard for sure. In terms of my worst of the weekend, so I kind of was, I'm just going to piggyback on the Chiefs thing for a while here. Nothing crazy. Like, I actually really don't hate the Chiefs that much in and of itself. Obviously, I get annoyed by the Taylor Swift stuff. I get annoyed by the Travis Kelce stuff. I also get annoyed by the Chris Collinsworth, Mahomes, are you serious? How did he do that? And like, look, Mahomes is a legend. Like, he might be the best quarterback we've ever seen. I'm not like, I don't hate greatness. I actually, a lot of times, root for the villains in sports and movies or whatever. Like, it's not even that. What I've said all year is I didn't think this was a particularly good Chiefs team. I thought, of the Chiefs teams we've seen over the last 5 years, this might be the worst one. And so I think that's what's disappointing to me about the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl, is that none of these other teams stepped up and beat what I viewed to be a vulnerable Chiefs team. I knew the Texans weren't good enough to do it. Obviously, if I could have had my pick, the Ravens would have been the team. And God damn, dude, I was watching that game yesterday, and my buddy even texted me, and he's like, I feel like the Ravens win this game. And I agree. I think the Ravens would have won that game, but
the Bills never will.
No, the Bills never will. It's tough. By the way, I've seen a lot of nerds in the NFL community being like, that play where the Chiefs brought the blitz and Josh Allen just kind of threw it up and it almost got completed. A bunch of nerds have like figured out that the running back in the flat was open or whatever. They're like, oh, he should have just checked it down. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. There was 3 unblocked blitzers coming right at his face. I think he did okay in that regard. Like, I'm okay with that. But no, it's just, it was disappointing. And like, again, like, it just kind of sucks, like that the Chiefs and Eagles, like, we're just getting the same story. But in terms of the Eagles side of this, one, I think they're very live in the Super Bowl. I think there's a very good chance they get the job done. I mean, the Eagles are a really good, well-rounded team. Jalen Hurts might be the worst quarterback in the playoffs, but he hasn't been asked to do a whole lot, and so it's kind of worked out. I feel like Saquon Barkley, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but it just kind of came to my brain. Saquon Barkley, I feel like semi-quietly is having like one of maybe the best running back season ever. I mean, he ran for 2,000 yards in the regular season. He was unbelievable, a legitimate MVP candidate. And then in the playoffs, when the season's on the line, he goes for 119 against Green Bay, 2 touchdowns. He goes for 205 against the Rams, 2 touchdowns. He goes 15 for 118 yesterday with 3 touchdowns, 8 yards a carry. And then obviously, we'll see what he does in the Super Bowl. But Saquon Barkley, man, that's actually a really cool story that I feel like people obviously have been talking about Saquon, but I don't think he's getting enough love. Like, I think if you look at the history of the league, I don't know if there's been 3 running back seasons better than this one.
He's been amazing. Yeah. And it's, again, if you're an Eagles fan, you're probably pumped by it, but man, going back to the Josh Allen thing, he's 0-4 against the Chiefs in the playoffs, but he's 7-1 against everybody else. Just crazy stuff.
Brutal, man.
Yeah.
Given the Bills' history, that's just tough scenes over there. You're not going to catch me feeling too bad for the folks of Buffalo, but
Yeah. I think it's good because if you had Bills fans and Eagles fans in New Orleans for a Super Bowl, that would have been chaotic. That would have been a little bit tough.
Yeah.
I was about to ask where the Super Bowl was. I'd forgotten. So
NOLA.
It's not a place where nothing bad ever happens.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, did y'all see Mahomes, like the worst attempted touchdown spike in history?
Mm-hmm.
That was rough, man. Mm-hmm. That was rough. He mentioned it after the game too. I'm glad he brought it up, but
it gave me vibes of like someone who's like, "Oh, I don't want to really hurt myself because I may do that," and then just like you thought too much about it during the act of like really didn't know.
By the way, Mahomes recently had a kid. I guess it was like 3 weeks ago or something like that. They had their second kid, and there's a bunch of pictures of him holding the baby. So of course there's been a ton of memes of him holding Josh Allen as a baby and stuff like that. It's just a layup. You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, internet's an undefeated place and stuff like that. But I tell you what, speaking of that, just to bring up an Alumni Hall question of the day, presented by Alumni Hall, shop them online for all the Razorback apparel that you could possibly want at InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. Somebody commented on this shirt that I'm wearing. Got it from Alumni Hall. So check it out. And you see them in store, 3417 North College Avenue. Again, online at InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. By the way, we're going to be back there next Friday. So it's a quick turnaround there for us, but we really enjoyed it being out there this past Friday and looking forward to it next week. But it's the ultimate Razorback shopping experience with Alumni Hall. Just for you guys' own perspective as sports fans, are sports better when you have just new championship teams and new blood, new flavor in there all the time? Or is it best when you get to watch dynasties exist and dominance exist?
I like the mixture of both. I like the dynasties and then having the new blood challenging them. Yeah, that's what I like. I'm all for that because it automatically villainizes those teams for me. Like I don't care about the Eagles at all, but man, I want them to beat the Chiefs, and the Spurs, back in the day when they were winning those championships every year. I didn't care who the hell came up against them, who came out of the East. I want them to win every year. And so it excites me more when I have something to root against like that. And then obviously they got their own fans who want them to keep it going, but I don't mind the dynasty thing. I don't think.
No, I'm kind of with you there. Like, I think I would lean. Obviously, there's a balance to everything. There's a line where you don't want just the same team winning every single year. Like if the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this year and completed the three-peat, and then won again next year, we'd really have a little bit of a problem on our hands just as a league and in terms of the product. But I agree with the sentiment of you need to have villains. One, I think that's. Every story kind of needs a good guy and a bad guy. And so the Chiefs are clearly the bad guy in this one. But I think it has to matter when teams win. If there's too much parity, and you definitely want some. I remember when people were complaining about how the Warriors and Cavs, it was just going to be them every year. And, or really it was just Warriors, LeBron or whatever. But there was a lot of complaints about that of like, oh, this is just bad for the league. Those were some of the most watched finals ever. Like it's objectively not bad for the league. And I definitely think like it has to mean something when you beat a team. Whereas like if you're beating a team that this is their first Super Bowl appearance in 12 years, or this is their first great run or whatever, it kind of doesn't have the same, like for instance, me as a Texans fan, if the Texans eventually do beat the Chiefs in the playoffs one day, all it's going to take is one playoff win over the Chiefs. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. It's going to be awesome because of how good the Chiefs are. And just frankly, like, I think having these staples in sports, having these guys that we all unanimously recognize as great is good. I think that's good in sports. It's kind of good to have some of that dominance, but of course there's a balance. You don't want to have literally these same teams every year.
Who cared when it was the 49ers and the Bengals? did anybody really care? You know,
No.
it's like, oh, Joe Burrow, whatever, but we cared.
And we haven't
wanna
cared
see
about
the
those
Chiefs
teams
lose.
since.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then also to that, it's because I was thinking about like my fandom that I've had of just sports and like how I was picking and choosing the type of dynasties I enjoyed and the type of dynasties that I hated. But and I know Andrew, you're younger, but Curtis, I'm sure you remember. A lot of people in our chat remember. I feel like the greatest and the most liked dynasty of all time has to be the Chicago Bulls of the '90s. Like there was nobody that hated Chicago, and I think part of it was because there wasn't that other team that like Celtics and Lakers. You're either one side or the other. Or same thing of like you brought up Golden State or LeBron. Like it kind of felt that way. But the Bulls, it was so funny because as a kid I hated the Jazz. I didn't know why. It was just because I think they were trying to beat the Bulls. And so that was to me like if you ever do a poll question of like what was the most likable dynasty in all of sports and any level, I think it's Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan has to be number one.
That's a good call. That's a really good call.
Yeah, because no one who cares about Bama in football or the Patriots in football. I got tired of that, man. But yeah, that was
the Patriots is weird. The Patriots went through a weird lull. Like there was like 9 years in between Brady's Super Bowls. He won the 3 right off the bat, like 3 and 4 years. And then there was like almost a full decade where they didn't win one. And so it was like kind of split into eras. But no, I think it's definitely cool when you have the target, like when you have a standard in the league and then everyone's kind of around that. Everyone complained for years that they wanted parity in the NBA. And then they got to a point where there was too much parity and nobody was watching.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, that'll be a good for our final segment here. Just kind of doing some random various storylines. Bet Saracen, folks, get over there and download the app today. It's the #1 sports betting app here in the state of Arkansas. You can go to betsaracen.com or go on your iPhone and Android, download the app and get to winning today. It's Bet Saracen, the #1 sports betting app here in the state of Arkansas. A few things of note, guys. Did you see that Ohio State's defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, left Ohio State, who just won a national championship, to be the defensive coordinator of Penn State? The same position.
I did not see this at all.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see that either. That's crazy.
Yep. He is, according to Pete Thamel, he is finalizing a 3-year deal to become the defensive coordinator of Penn State for $3.1 million a year.
That's why.
Yes.
That's more than Rhett Lashley makes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, listen, kudos to Penn State for getting it done, but man, to get a national championship winning coordinator to go to another school in the same conference at the same position, yeah, you're going to have to pony up some dough. So, but yeah,
the only thing worse than that would have been for him to go to Michigan. Like that's such a interconference rival lateral move, man.
Yeah.
Good on James Franklin.
Yeah.
He's what just happened?
I'm glad that y'all agreed that something weird happened.
StreamYard
I was going
weird.
crazy for a second.
I did not do that.
I didn't touch a thing, man. So yeah, we got some people, got some
what is going
gremlins in the system. Jeez. Anyway, I don't know what that was. But we're still here for a few minutes at least.
That's awesome.
But yeah, move a few more things though, real quick. Did you guys see this thing with Paul Skeens? I don't know if you heard of him, but he has a 1-for-1 rookie card. Like it's there's none other like it. And the Pirates offered him 30. This is an 11-year-old kid that has this 30 years of season tickets behind home plate. They offered him that in exchange for this card. He said, "Nah, I'm taking it to auction." So shout out to him. He's a genius, smart man.
He threw in a date with Livy. There was a long list of crap that he got too. Because I mean, obviously the 30 years worth of season tickets at behind home plate like that, and that's a lot of value. But there was like this whole thing if he was going to sit in a box with Livy and like I think maybe like some type of meet and greet with Paul Skeens or whatever.
Yeah, it was
kick rocks, man. That's awesome.
It was a meet and greet with Paul Skeens, 2 season tickets behind home plate for 30 years, softball game for 30 people at PNC Park, and then 2 Paul Skeens autographed jerseys, as well as being in the suites and all that stuff. So,
nah, fam.
I mean, dude, because
it's cool.
Someone got in his ear and told him, like, dude, that is worth millions potentially. Like, I think he probably made the right decision. I love that.
Yep.
For sure, man. And just for the record, an update. This got leaked earlier, but people weren't really running with it. But like the McDonald's All-American team's are already out. They were going to do like the TV announcement and everything. But like Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, they're both on it. They're on different teams, which is cool.
So they're going to go head to head?
Head to head.
Hell yeah.
If you're a Razorback fan, who do you root for?
That's tough, man. I don't know. A-Cuff, he was the first.
Whoever's team wins the game, that's who we're gonna ride with. Like that's the guy, and the other one better get in line.
Both guys just go for 50 against each other, but one of them has one more point, like 51, and that's the difference. That's what you root for.
If Malik Thomas doesn't wind up being very good, I think it would definitely like hurt my fandom in general. Like I've come to really, really admire that young lad, and I hope he's going to be really good. I just like his mentality, I like his personality, and obviously I like his game.
Malik Thomas is on the same team as Caleb Wilson, who just spurned Kentucky and went to North Carolina. And he was the guy that Arkansas thought through most of the summer, it was like, oh, they're kind of in the driver's seat until they weren't. And then A-Cuff is on the same team as the Boozer twins. And Nate Ament, who's still on the board for 2025.
Have the Boozer twins been in college for 12 years or what? I feel like that was literally like Mike Anderson was recruiting those boys. They've been in college or in high school forever.
I know, man. I know. Well, it's because they were both like grown men, freak specimens, 6'9", you know, as like 12-year-olds. Or at least the one.
Mean, Curtis, am I wrong in thinking that when you and I worked at a different organization, you wrote stories about the Boozer twins?
Definitely did.
I was just saying, I feel like I remember that from like 3-4 years ago. I guess. I mean, you're in high school for 4 years, makes sense. But wow.
Yep, still around there. All right, a few things. Actually, let's go to some of the chats we get to before we close up shop here. We're talking about this comes from Evan. He says, "If we do beat Kentucky, do you think they start to turn on Mark Pope?" No,
no, but I did star that one. One of my best of the weekends, and I actually forgot to bring it up, was going to be Vanderbilt for beating Kentucky, for beating Tennessee and Kentucky. That's cool. You know, like we don't want to beat Arkansas, but he's done a hell of a job there. Mark Byington has, but that win kind of took some of the BBN strays off of Arkansas and to that team for the first time. And they're going through it like Kentucky. They've got some injuries right now. I don't feel bad for them. So does Arkansas. Like it's just part of the deal. But they're struggle busing just a little bit. And this was the first time I think they took a loss they really felt like they shouldn't take. And people were like, what's going on here? What the hell was that? And so people were a little salty. They're at Tennessee on Tuesday, so tomorrow, which is going to be a tough game for them. There is a world where, you know, they're on a 3-game losing streak and below 500 in the SEC when Arkansas comes in there. If that's the case and Cal beats them, they're not going to turn on Mark Pope, but people are going to be doing the honeymoon's over, dude, real quick. So
it'll definitely change kind of the mentality. The way this is actually going to play out, though, of course, is they'll lose to Tennessee and then beat Arkansas, and I think that'll kind of be a moment where they're like, all right, we can exhale now. We're back to 4-4 in the SEC. We beat Cal. That was really our main mission. You know, they'll be fine. But I definitely think, I mean, to answer the question though, if they lost to Cal, and then that would make them what 3-5, say, assuming they lose to Tennessee.
Yeah, they'd be 4 straight losses.
Get uncomfortable. I don't think they would turn on them right away, especially because it's worth noting. It's not like the preseason expectations were like title or bust in Lexington. Like I mean, some places didn't even have him ranked preseason. So I think he's kind of already built up enough goodwill. And ultimately, I think people just like him, former Kentucky guy. I think ultimately, like he's going to be fine, but it's definitely going to get a little bit uncomfortable. And I think you're right. The honeymoon would officially end then.
I just really hope it goes the way that it seems like for Arkansas. Whenever Arkansas like fired a coach or a coach left and they went to another place and then they played Arkansas, that other coach always won. Houston Nutt did it. John Pelfrey went back to Florida as the assistant coach. He did it. So it'd be nice to have, you know, that happen for a change, but probably not. Hickory Hog says, Cal shows up in a blue suit, and when his name is called, he rips it off to show a red suit. Crowd boos him, and Big Z goes for 35. Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, they'll be fine. We take that.
I wonder if he should get like a reversible blazer, you know. He's got it in blue, then he just slips out of the sleeves and flips it to red.
Or what
it's not about that life, but it'd be awesome.
What would be really funny is he came out with a Razorback Letterman's jacket, kind of like what Pope has with his Letterman's jacket that he wore. Like if he just comes out and he's wearing that,
that's the move.
That'd be great. I also have this from the Kentucky fan Cats by 9. Not sure if it's Kentucky Super Bowl. Our players haven't even heard of John Calipari until now. That is a falsehood beyond belief. Like you know, I say keep effing that chicken. Yeah, that's what that is. If you're thinking that they've never heard of John Calipari until now, that's absurd.
They've heard of him. They're not like they haven't turned their eyes and ears off to all the chatter that's going to be happening this week. They're going to be wanting to win that one for their coach. They're going to be highly motivated. No doubt about it. This one means a crap ton to them.
Yes, it does. Also, Double H wants to know, John, who is the better travel partner, Curtis or Andrew? I don't think I've actually traveled with just Andrew before. So, I mean, we've all traveled as a group, and I traveled with Curtis. I don't think I've just traveled with Andrew, so I can't speak on that just now. But hey,
but you've traveled with both of us enough to where it's like, you know.
Yeah. Hey, listen, our road trips are fun. We have a good time.
Answer the question, John.
Yeah, he's ducking it big time right here. He's like, well, I mean, you know.
This is our first airplane experience together.
Yeah. We and John's we got to keep an eye on John. He's going to be a little shaky.
I'm already had travel anxiety yesterday and today about it. Like but here's the thing. It's like, what is it? Probably an hour flight from here to Chicago. I've never flown to O'Hare. This is going to be my first time to fly to O'Hare. So
yeah, hour and a half probably.
Yeah. And then I feel like from Chicago to Lexington, it's got to be pretty.
That'll be up and down.
Yeah. So that helps. It's just, when I look at it as if I was able to fly the red eye from Vegas to Atlanta, I can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
But I think also what hurts is the plane size. Those little pack of gum planes get me. I just hate it. But if the more I feel like I'm not in an airplane helps me. It's just plain and simple. So, but these people, like my buddy who went to India and was in a 13-hour flight, absolutely not. There's zero chance I would ever do that. I will put me on the Titanic and sink and get me on a lifeboat. I'd rather do that than try to, go across that. Could not do it.
Hey boys, I got breaking news.
What's up?
The Arkansas Razorback football program has landed a big time difference maker.
There's one reason why you're. Yep, I was gonna say there's one reason why you're bringing this up.
No, his name's Ari Slocum. He is a defensive lineman. According to 24/7 Sports, he's the number 25 player in the state of Louisiana and the number 85 defensive lineman in the 2026 class. He's an 84 3-star, 6'3", 309, from Farmerville, Louisiana, which is like basically Ruston. I delivered some pizzas to Farmerville, Louisiana, so it's good place. good for him. And so this is not a needle mover necessarily, but
hashtag boot hog.
Boot hog, yeah. Got that sucker. The Louisiana pipeline is back up and running.
Yeah. Well, good. It needs to be. That's a good start for it. And finally, I guess maybe you could start this, Curtis, from Michael Kopeski.
Yeah, unfortunately, neither one of those things are going to happen.
Yeah. Also, do you need 5 freshmen?
No.
I don't know if you need 5 freshmen.
No, because the main reason I don't want that is because if they did that, Fab 5.2.0, Fab 5. Remember the Fab 5?
They might get Mika, but he said last week he's not reclassifying. So
okay,
it'd be next year.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, there you have it. So, all right, guys. Well, any final thoughts before we roll out of here for the day?
The only thought I have is actually a question for you, John. Does it help or hurt, like the recent issues that have been going on with planes lately? A lot of crashes, a lot of
that could not have been a good thing.
Okay, well, thank you, Curtis, because I didn't know there was issues. Now I'm going to have to find what the issues are, but they come in threes. So yeah, it's going to make it exponentially worse for me. So thank you.
There's been more than 3, so that might be a good thing, a good omen. Like it's.
Well, I mean, statistically speaking, right? There's no way ours is going to crash, right? I mean, like there's already been a few. They've reached the quota.
In a way,
we're due for a good stretch of plane crash, or
I'm going to send you an article about starlings, the birds, and how they're attracted to the jet engines of. Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. I hate flying. And
Fly together, die together, boys.
Oh man, I'm gonna. I can't deal with it. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be a quick trip, no problems, no delays. We got an hour and a half of a layover in Chicago, so we got time. Hopefully it ends up being just fine, but jeez, thank you. But thank you for that, Curtis. That's really reassuring. Jeez. Also, to make sure you check the weather, boys, in Lexington when you're packing. So it'll be actually, it's not going to be too bad. It's going to be like in the upper 40s, lower 50s, but it looks like it's going to rain all day Saturday for the game, which kind of sucks. So,
Oh man. Okay.
That does kind of suck.
How about you, Andrew? Anything?
I don't think I have any final thoughts. Just tune into the Bombastic Podcast. Tune into the Pod at the Palace, which has been crushing it, man. Like I've said it before. It's hard to be good at covering basketball when the team is 1-6. But Curtis keeps finding ways to do it, and everybody's kind of asking. Everybody's moving on next year. Well, Curtis has got content for that too. So
got you covered. That's where we have turned that page. You're right. Thank you.
We're on to 2026, if that's the case. But yeah, we do appreciate everybody tapping in. As I keep feeling like, hey, if all of our content's great and we're crushing it and everything, and if it's this good with the teams that are sucking, just imagine when all the teams or some of the teams will be really good. I mean, it's going to be so much more fun when that happens. But still, yeah, we're going to be, again, folks, reminder, Wednesday, we're flying out. We'll keep you updated on kind of our content schedule. Inside Arkansas Live is going to, on Thursday and Friday, be live at KS Bar. They're in Lexington. So, but if you're going to be making the trip to Lexington as a Razorback fan, hit us up and we'll get the chance to see you and hang out with you too. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page. Also, subscribe to all of our audio version podcasts, wherever podcasts are found, whether it's Pod the Palace, Bombastic Podcast, or Inside Arkansas Live. You can do that. And you can check it out on social media in Inside Arkansas, as well as our website, InsideArkansas.com, for all the latest and greatest up-to-date information and all things Hogs. So, for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we'll see you then.